Mr. Harvey, do you really like being on the other side of the reporter's mic?
No, this isn't my choice, Jimmy. Thank you very much. Do you mind if I interview you instead?
No, thank you. No, thank you. It's a little different, though, having to answer questions than ask them, though, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. I'm always flattered by this kind of attention, but I'm so much more comfortable when I can be challenging somebody else's intellect.
A little classification here. Do you consider yourself a reporter or a commentator?
When I started in broadcasting, Jimmy, we were all very carefully categorized. You first started out as a news reporter. Then when you got a few miles on you and better than average batting average, you were allowed to call yourself a news analyst. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, after you'd weathered a few more storms and had established a degree of responsibility, you were allowed to call yourself a commentator. Now, of course, all those lines are blurred. Now almost everybody calls himself a reporter or an anchor or whatever it is, but they're all commenting. They're commenting only by what they toss in the wastebasket and what they use. It seems much more honest to me to just call it Paul Harvey News and comment and then view the world from my own perspective and let people understand that that's what it is.
Have you ever gotten any trouble or criticism over the years for blurring the line sometimes, maybe?
Oh, of course. Of course, it took people a lot of years to get used to the idea, but I think everybody is now. No, there's no longer much criticism of that because everybody understands that what they're listening to is Paul Harvey News.
I was asking you earlier before we started taping, but I'll ask you anyway. I know you asked about the secret of your success. Do you think it's that you have a mind like what maybe middle America or that silent majority, whatever that was that Nixon used to talk about?
I certainly try for that. I think Midwest roots is a tremendous asset, Jimmy. Oh my goodness. I couldn't be 90 days back in New York or even in Washington, D.C. and not become myopic. Soon I would start to think that the sun rises behind the UN building and it sets in the Appalachians, and that's all there is to this country. And of course, you and I know that's not all there is. That's a help. Geographically, to be home-based in Chicago and to be traveling middle America 2 or 3 days every week, that's a big asset. But also, I've tried to keep in my mind's eye a mental picture of one of my wife's sisters, Betty Ruth. I think of Aunt Betty sometimes. She is not the scholar that my wife was. She's a fine, loyal, wonderful, God-fearing American housewife. Not a Phi Beta Kappa, but she's the epitome of grassroots America. And when I finish an essay, we'll say pipelines in Bessarabia or something of this sort, I have to say to myself, now does Aunt Betty understand that? If she doesn't, I rewrite it. Or does Aunt Betty care about that? And if she doesn't, I throw it in the wastebasket.
Why, you've had such great success with the ABC radio network. Why have there been no Paul Harvey clones placed on us? In this society, we always want to copy success, and I don't know of anyone who's ever tried to even copy you.
I'm not sure the networks will allow another Paul Harvey to develop. I'm really not sure of that. I'm sure the president of our network must cut himself shaving a lot of mornings when he's listening to that fellow out there with that great degree of latitude, with such a wide-ranging prerogative. Either that will happen, there won't be any more, or something else will happen. With the multiplicity of media cascading in upon us, including cable and all of its kindred, I think we may revert, as we once did in radio, to offering the listener a wide spectrum of opinion. Commentary from left to right. Then the listener can choose for himself. I think that's the more wholesome eventuality.
In listening to you over the years, I know that you have a very positive view of America and the future. Many people always say there's doom in the future, but you say the opposite.
Jimmy,
how do you get that opinion?
I mean, I can't be an expert on all of these things we're called upon to expert, but I am something of a student of history, and every pessimist ever in history has been buried in an unmarked grave. They always were wrong. Tomorrow always has been better than today, and it will be, and especially now. Oh my goodness, in our nation, this is our shining hour. This is the only land in the world where people are standing in line waiting to get in instead of braving stormy seas in small boats, dying, trying to get out. Oh my, what a wonderful time. If you could choose a time and a place in all history for yourself in which you would want to live, this would have to be the time. This would have to be the place. In our own industry, the technology that's cascading in upon us is such that I can't describe it now because the words for what we'll be doing tomorrow aren't even in the dictionary yet.
But do you have any advice for someone like a President Bush coming in? If he was to listen to your commentary and you wrote him a letter, what would you tell him to maybe look out for?
For the fact that there are sore losers in our midst who have not given up. And there are congressmen named right who are more likely to be wrong, who would like to keep the Washington establishment intact and continue to run things their own way. That would be my counsel to him in his effort to get along with this Washington establishment, including the Washington-based news media. He must not desert the people who elected him, or we'll end up with the kind of government we just got through voting against.
Well, thank you a lot, Mr. Harvey. You remind me very much of an Art Linkletter. You get younger instead of older.
Oh, what a nice compliment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.